Welcome to the People Leader Accelerator Podcast. I'm Executive Coach Jess Yuen, joined by my co-host, the co-founder and managing partner of People Leader Accelerator, Andrew Bartlow. On this show, we dive deep with business and HR leaders to uncover what really works when it comes to building high-performing organizations, navigating leadership challenges, and making better management decisions. Whether you're the first people leader at a startup or a seasoned executive at a company with scale, you'll find practical insights you can apply right away. For show notes and free bonus resources, visit peopleleaderaccelerator.com/podcast. And if you're looking for hands-on support from developing your leaders to creating a high-performance culture to hiring the right people, visit us at peopleleaderaccelerator.com. We'd love to help. Let's get into today's episode. So excited to have you on the podcast. Your career has been epic in so many ways, of just across so many industries, so many roles, and now you're in a new role. And so excited to dive a bit more into all of that in our time together. Andrew and I have had a joy of getting to know you through People Tech Partners over the last more than half a decade and not quite a decade yet. We're getting close to the decade mark there. But I would love maybe for our audience who, some of them maybe are meeting you for the first time, but what's kind of like a broad arc of how you would describe your career? There's so many moments in your career where I'm like, that could answer this, but like, what are maybe in your mind, one or two of the most pivotal moments in your career that have shaped how you view the people function or leadership in general?
Both are great questions. I don't know how to answer the overall arc question without like looking through my LinkedIn, but I will say that I am like almost everyone in HR. I'm an accidental people person. I like humans, people person, but an accidental HR person. I studied clinical psychology, wanted to be a therapist when I was like 16. I had this mission statement, so cheesy now, but I still use it today. I wanted to help people help themselves. That was like my goal in life. And in college, I figured out that this whole emotional boundary thing is really hard. I kind of like people too much. And I got a job as a recruiter. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. I get to understand this business thing. I get to meet a whole bunch of people. I get to try to figure out who they are, what gets them going, what their skills are in like this tiny little amount of time, and then see if there's a match. And then there's fulfillment for everyone all around. Like, this is cool. And I did that at AOL, which, it's 1996. This is a like cool era to be in tech.
It was cool. And AOL was especially cool.
AOL was so cool. I still have some CDs. Don't tell my husband, they're hidden in the garage. That started this like accidental landing into HR, which was interesting for me because I still really cared about humans. To this day, I consider myself a student of humans. I love to try to figure out what makes us each tick individually. But I'm equally intrigued by business and like how a business operates and just the core operations of you're building a product for a market that may or may not know they need that product. And you either have to manufacture it or dream it up if it's software, get it to them, get them to buy it, get them to buy it, get them to buy it, and make enough money to employ enough people to do that over and over and over again. And like, it sounds really simple when I say it like that, but it's so messy. And I love the messiness of those two things coming together, the humans and business. And so I would say that my career arc is anywhere those things came together and it was messy, I was in the middle of it, trying to make some sense of it.
I love it. The accidental HR person in the middle of the messiness and making sense of it. And one of the messiest things that you jumped into, I love in your career arc, you kind of like the second part of it is like, and then you became a CEO. I think for those of us in the people space who know this story, during a time that was really messy, it was like pandemic times, coming into a mental health company and, really helping to land that plane. We can get in that a little bit later, but maybe we first chat about what you're doing today. And because you've taken another sort of turn in your career to where you are right now, and you're serving as a talent partner for Playground Global. So could you tell us more about that role and about Playground?
Also an accident. I never thought I would be in venture. I've always been on the backside of the check, where you endorse the check and run like hell and hope to do good with it. And I've always been intrigued by venture because it's just such a different business model. And I didn't know enough about it from the investor side of the house. Like they have their own investors and they have their own metrics. And what are those? Like the startup industry, we don't really talk about that. When you're on the receiving end, we don't really think about what are our investors motivated and why are they acting the way they're acting. We're just like, why don't they just get out of my way so I can go build my company, right? So coming to the other side of that was certainly an accident. Playground focuses on deep tech. So we invest in companies very early in their life cycle. They might be two people bouncing out of academia with an idea about how to change how power works on a semiconductor chip. It is super nerdy stuff, which I absolutely love. It is very early and very risky. And one of the things that I love about Playground is we don't just write a check and walk away. We have this incredible team of operating partners who are here to help those founders stand up their business, get out of the operational gunk, build their technology, and get it out into the market as quickly as possible. And so my job is turned into a company builder, but from the outside. It's very different in that way, like coming in as a CPO or a COO or any of the other roles I've played. You're inside, you're in the same game, you have the same mission, and you have one mission. Now I have like 50. And sometimes they call me when they need them and it's urgent. Sometimes I'm knocking on the door incessantly saying, how can I help? How can I help? Which I laugh at every time I say it out loud. It's a lot of fun. It's just a totally different angle.
I'm so thankful that you're joining us on this pod. And through this pod, we're hoping to help other HR people that are maybe earlier in their career try to figure out how to have some of the same successes that you had or that Jess did and accelerate their own careers. One of the ways that we hope to do that is by demystifying some things. And the venture talent partner role is something that not everybody really understands how it works and how to interact with them. And from personal experience doing some PE talent partner work, which is a different flavor of the same ice cream, there's often some trepidation involved in working with the talent partner of your investor. And I'd love it if you could just as openly as possible and as you're willing to do, like, could you share a little bit more for our audience of HR practitioners that might be interacting with talent partners? What is the role? What should the relationship be like with someone like you?
So it's different in every VC. They have different expectations. Some talent partners are pure talent people. They will help you with exec search. Maybe they'll embed a recruiter if it's early. That's all they'll ever touch is the recruiting lane, and they're amazing at it. Others focus on operational things. So the first thing I would say is, don't be afraid of this person. They might judge you a little bit, but they're really not there to judge you. Their whole value comes from helping. So they can only help you if they get to know you. So I would just say, first things first, reach out and ask them how they engage with portfolio companies. Maybe you'll learn that they can help you whenever you're looking for your next CFO and can help introduce you to a couple of candidates, or you're looking to change out a system that you use and they can get you a discount somewhere. Just ask them what they do. And then the second is, I think there's this conception that everything you say to that person, that they're going to run back to your board member and tell them. Ask them the question, does what we talk about stay with us? Or do you have an obligation to share it with my investor board member? And just see what they tell you. For me personally, I'm all about building trusting relationships. And that means I have to use really good judgment about what I share and don't share outside of the context of the conversation with that person inside the company. I work with CEOs directly, the rest of their executive team, and of course, their heads of people. And I had lunch today with an amazing chief people officer, Leon from D-Matrix, and he's just like the most delightful human being you'll ever spend time with. No offense to the two of you. Don't worry, rank there too. But, we talked about everything, like ways he's helping the CEO, ways he's bringing in coaches, ways I could help him. And he's very open with me, and I have no reason to report anything back to his board member except he's got it under control. And that's all the board member really needs to hear from me. They don't actually care about the details unless it's broken. And if it's broken, you probably want me setting that up with that board member so that they're helpful instead of surprised whenever they walk into that board meeting. So I would say use that operating partner of whatever function to funnel information to the board member if necessary, so that the board member doesn't show up surprised, and ask how they operate. I've got another person who will come to me and say, hey, this is my board member. What are they really like? Like, how do they like to process data? How do they want to be presented to? And I am happy to help them prepare for a comp committee meeting or whatever's coming, so that whatever their goal is, they have enough data to know if it's realistic and then prepare it in a way that allows them to hopefully achieve it. So I consider myself an enabler. I would say, having been on the other side, I didn't always know how to use those folks. Like Jamie Bott at Sequoia, amazing human being. I could just call her, even whenever I was in a company that wasn't a Sequoia company, I would call Jamie, because she's just such a delightful person and always knew someone that could be helpful to me. But she wasn't going to call me every week. She had hundreds of companies to worry about. So I would just say, take the first step and reach out, find out who they are, what they're up to, take them to lunch, just spend time with them and figure out how you can use them for you.
I love it. The role exists to support the success of the portfolio companies.
That's right.
And so what I'm hearing is that the talent partner is not your therapist. They're not your priest. They're not going to solve all your problems. You won't often get full confidentiality unless they promise that directly.
Yep.
But they're a resource. Let me share a program that's built just for people like you. Leading people at a fast growth company is one of the hardest jobs out there. That's why we created People Leader Accelerator. It's a 16-week executive program that equips HR leaders with the tools, the frameworks, and the network to succeed. Plus, you'll join a lifetime community of alumni. Applications for our spring cohort are open at peopleleaderaccelerator.com. And with that, let's return to today's episode. Yeah.
That's right. For me personally, I'm never going to share something with anybody inside of Playground that I haven't been clear with that company that I would share.
Yeah.
I might ask them, hey, do you mind if I talk to so-and-so about this? And if they say, oh, I'm not really ready for that, then I'll either negotiate with them because I see it as a potential blow up, or I'll say, all right, I'll check in a week. And usually they're fine by then because they've kind of settled into it and understand the intention. But I think you'll find that everybody in this role, as much as nobody told me about it until I was inside, and I don't know if you experienced this, Andrew, but after I was inside, I made my rounds and talked to others. Their first thing I heard was, oh yeah, you're totally going to feel like an alien for at least 6 months. I was like, why didn't you tell me that 6 months ago? It's a different world. It's a different operating style. It's everything about how the venture firm operates is nothing like how a company operates. And so it's just like a whole new learning, at least for me.
Can you tell us more about some of those things that really caught you off guard about, like, wow, the operating model of a VC firm, this is just sort of juxtaposed, or like my intuition or my spidey sense or gut instincts are like totally thrown off because I need a different instinct for the way that I would do things in VC?
Yeah, I thought that because we're a smaller firm, there's only 40 people inside the firm, and we have a relatively narrow remit from an investment thesis perspective. I thought there would be more alignment across the team. And instead, there's a lot of lanes, and they all operate very differently. Kind of like in a law firm, you don't have a single CEO, you have a lot of partners. And the partners, they don't need to get aligned on, certain things. They just need to go invest money in their lane and make sure they're good investments and that those companies are supported. But each of them has massively different operating styles. So if you think about the last 4 CEOs that you worked for, imagine working for all 4 of them at the same time. That's the fastest way I can describe it.
That's really helpful, though, too. I think especially for anybody who's thinking about getting to a role like this, is just being prepared for that difference of, hey, you're going to have each partner expecting sort of a different expectation, different relationship, different way that they might pull you into the companies that they're working with.
And I don't know how to articulate that to you. up
I think
front.
you just did.
Yeah. So ask around.
Demystifying right now.
Yeah. If you are interested in the space, just go talk to people. Like these folks are happy to chat with you and tell you what it's like inside their firm. I have yet to meet anyone that is like, no, I don't want to talk. They probably want to get out of the office is what they want. But yeah, they're lovely. So reach out.
Michelle, one more question as we peel back the talent partner role. It's different being an advisor. It's not even really a consultant, it's an advisor, right? How do you win? How do you show value to the investment firm as a talent partner?
This is like the magic question. Again, like if you have 4 GPs, it's 4 different ways.
Yep.
And news has to travel back through the portfolio company CEOs. It can't be me showing the GP something I've done. It has to be the CEO showing the partner something I've done. And that's mostly true, at least across our GPs. And so, I might have a program running in a company, true story that's happened. This is happening right now. The program is going beautifully. The people that I'm working with on it are telling me that it's been incredibly helpful as they've gone through organizational changes. And I mentioned this to the partner, and he's like, didn't come up in the board meeting. So it's almost like it didn't happen. I was like, okay, got it. Thanks for the feedback, because you have to take that as feedback. And so back to that group I went, and I just straight up asked the person, can you just share this in the board meeting next time that this is happening, and just associate it with Playground? I don't even need you to associate it with me because they'll all know who it is based on the topic. But I was a little surprised by that they wanted to hear it go all the way back through that path. So, okay, got it. I can make that happen. But that's the only way. And it's hard. So in our firm, I do all things organizational, operational, people, and talent oriented. So not a pure talent partner. Actually, the least of what we do is recruiting. Most of it is everything from welcome to exiting your academic career and starting a company. Here's how you get D&O insurance. Here's how you pay people. All the basics of running a
early stage.
Early stuff, right? Which my CEO experience has certainly come in handy here to both build trusting relationships and also get the mechanics right. From that, then we have a whole marketing and brand team. Theirs is a little easier, right? Because they're out there rebranding a company, launching a website, doing something everybody can see. And then we have a fundraising team. Well, if a round of funding happens and they're participating in it, pretty easy to tie that back together. But just like a CPO role in an operating company, it's sometimes hard when you have multiple nodes that you have to touch to get to the value. It's hard to tie that all back together. So I would say, don't come in-house to a VC if you're not willing to toot your own horn and advertise your work. It's hard for me. It's not really how I've operated. And so it's one more thing that I'm learning how to do. But you really have to do it that way. You have to be your own advertiser.
Love it. Really helpful.
Super helpful. And I know you mentioned that your CEO experience has played a lot into being able to support these companies now. Can we dive a little bit more into that CEO experience? In my mind, it was like one of those moments that took you, who was already somebody who was a CPO I looked up to and admired and respected. And I was like, wow, like a whole new level of respect, especially for the circumstances around it. And so could you share a bit more about that transition, how it came about, and a few highlights of being CEO or your biggest lessons that you took away from it?
It was, of course, we're now pretty far in the rearview mirror, being a couple of years ago. And so I have only wonderful memories. The hard parts where, I'd sit in my home office and like shed a few tears at the end of a really rough day are way further in my memory, but they're still quite real. I stepped into that role. I had just joined as CPO just a few months earlier. The company had raised a whole bunch of money. Board decided, sort of without working with anyone else, just out of surprise, said, you know what, we think we need a different CEO. And the founder had already stepped into a supporting role. So it wasn't a founder CEO that was exiting. It was honestly a wonderful guy that was brought in to be a growth CEO, and the company was still at product market fit stage. And it just didn't make sense to try and, you just can't strap a rocket to a bicycle that doesn't have a chain or wheels or anything else. And they sort of looked around the exec team and looked around the era that we were in and said, we need somebody that gives a damn about this business. And I cared deeply about behavioral health. Back to my original goal in life, here I was kind of bringing it back together. And so with equal amounts of absolute terror and excitement, I said yes and sort of just got to work. I'm not sure where all the courage came from. To me, it came from looking across our employee base. At the time, we had 170 employees and thinking about the patients that we took care of and the more that we would, many, many, many more we would take care of over the next few years. And it just felt like a duty.
Had you ever considered being a CEO?
No way. No way. Like, I love operating. I love being a COO. I had operated as a COO at a couple of companies prior. I didn't give a damn about the title, still don't. That hurt me at some point, but fight for good titles that represent the actual work you're doing. Yeah, preach to that. If I could tell myself that 10 years ago, I definitely would. But I was very comfortable in a number 2 position. Sitting first chair was a very comfortable place for me. I love being a consigliere to the CEO. But given the opportunity, it was an incredible opportunity. I actually enjoyed the accountability. I was not fussed by the stress of it. Managing the board was from a totally different seat and a very different kind of board that didn't all love each other all the time. So a lot of my people skills came out, being a CPO with a bunch of very powerful, very smart board members. Rebuilding an executive team, come on, we've all done that. Just this time you're actually picking the people, so you don't get to sit back and go, oh, I liked the other one better. Too bad, so sad. It's your call this time. But no, I didn't have that. That wasn't on my plan. So life just works out that way sometimes.
You mentioned the fear element of just how scary it was. Can you recall, how did you work through that? I don't know if it was logic or gut instinct, but what was the process to be able to get through that fear?
Honestly, if I rewind back to that December and think about it, it was move fast, make decisions, trust your gut, talk to your team, and do all the things that you have coached every other CEO you worked for to do. Go prove that what you were telling people to do all those times, cajoling them to do sometimes, was the right way to lead. And I think that's what motivated me. Okay, I'm either going to be a hypocrite by not following my own advice, or I'm going to own my shit and do what I said I would do if I were in their seat, which is what I would have always advised of the other CEOs. I think if I hadn't had experience coaching other CEOs for so long, it would have been way harder.
It's almost like you were coaching yourself.
Yeah.
In that moment, right? What have I said if it were a different CEO in this seat? And am I following that in this moment?
And I had an exec coach at the time. His name is Ben, and he had coached me when I was a CPO at another company. And I called him immediately and actually made it part of my offer whenever I was negotiating with the board. I was like, I want this exec coach for the next 6 months minimum because he's expensive. So I wanted to make sure they were truly supportive of it. And he said, I'm going to say this in every single session. How would you coach yourself? And so he inspired that perspective to remind myself that I had sat next door to this role and I had a perspective and I needed to incorporate all my new learning, but also bring that forward. I also happened to have an amazing head of people who was my right-hand person in the CPO role, who stepped up to lead the people function. For all the HR leaders out there, you're badasses because you really do make or break a CEO's experience in so many ways. So she was very helpful to help me power through that fear to get past those scary moments.
Yeah. Thank you for calling out those 2 really important supports in being able to function at your best as CEO, of having an exec coach and having a strong head of people in that as well.
I also have an awesome husband who's a founder CEO. So if you ever think decisions don't get made at our house, they don't. We're so tired at the end of the day, we would just be like, do you want to eat or not eat? Like, but like, talk about empathy, like the best level of empathy came from him.
That's amazing. And how like fortunate too to have somebody who really truly understood exactly the difficulty of being a CEO at that moment in time. So powerful triumvirate of support, what I'm hearing is like the key takeaway here. Even though I know you don't think of yourself necessarily as like this super strong person, you can probably tell by the way that I'm like kind of fangirling you right now of just, I just love your perspective on things, really respect the advice that you give. One thing in your LinkedIn profile that really stands out to me is you talk about your superpower and that you see your strength as being able to see the strengths in other people that they may not see themselves. And I'm curious if you have an example or two of, what this looks like or has looked like with people that you've worked with, and how did you develop this superpower?
It's hard to think about how I developed it. I think it's just sort of developed on its own because of my interest in humans and human behavior. I just pay really close attention to people. And I don't mean that in like a creepy way, but I'm just sort of always watching, I see body language, I see tone change, I see how people lean in or lean out or their interests. And to give you an example, I've been coaching this person for the last couple of years. He is no longer in this role, but he was a VP of people. Didn't come from people. He actually came from a variety of different jobs. But in this particular company, he came in through like account management, customer success kind of roles, worked his way up. And at some point, the CEO was like, okay, you can either be the VP of operations or HR. And he was really drawn to culture building. And so he chose the HR path. And he was in the role for 6-9 months. And the founder was like, this isn't working. You need to find someone to help you. And an old friend from 25 years ago introduced us. And so we started working together. And it was so clear to me how well he could see the entire business. He understood how every single role worked together or didn't to support their customers. And he could talk about any role, but I don't mean like a job description style talk about it. He could talk about the person in the role, their impact, how they could be better, what that impact would mean for revenue, for the customer, for the company. And he had no idea that this kind of connectivity structure was just how his brain worked. And we really focused on making this part of his communication style to bring people forward and connect them to company level objectives. He's so good at this. If you could look across the company and say, that person, a job that you find hard to connect, they're an EA. EAs are like, what do? I manage the calendar and make sure the exec shows up. No. You use judgment to look at your CEO's calendar and think, I know what their top 3 priorities are and how much time they need to spend on them. And I'm going to knock the bullshit off of this calendar that's not additive to that this week. And I also know they show up best between 8 and 10 in the morning. So that's what I'm going to put them with customers. And the impact that's going to have is those customers are going to have a better experience with the CEO, and the CEO is going to close more deals. More deals means more growth for the company. So he could then translate this connectivity knowledge and depth of job knowledge for every individual. And he could teach managers how to do that for their teams to actually connect them to a mission. But he couldn't see this himself. He didn't know that this was his superpower. And so me shining a light on it and practicing with him just like amplified his impact on the company. And that's so fun for me. That's like the superpower that is just how people operate. They don't realize is their superpower.
I love the way that you describe it too, because as I was listening, I was thinking to myself, how amazing if every head of people had this superpower, had this ability, and for him to be able to translate that into something scalable for the organization as well. And for you to highlight that for him, how powerful that is.
Yeah. He went on to lead a whole management program about how to do this inside the company as a part of like a full company offsite, like how to give feedback, how to connect people to their goals, how to connect their work to the mission of the company. And we all know that that's hard to do one-to-one, unless you have a lot of context. And most managers, frankly, aren't very good at it. So the fact that he could teach that to others was powerful.
Yeah. If I might take a tangent here on context, one thing that's really cool about your background is that you've worked in so many industries. You've worked in tech, but software and hardware. You were at AOL in the early days. You were in supply chain. You've done mental health. How did you think about navigating different industries as they kind of connected to your career? Was that something intentional? Was like something you were going after, or was it more organic? I think for people trying to navigate their careers, it's always an interesting question. I'd love to hear your take on it.
I'm insatiable in learning something new. I have a goal that I'll probably never achieve until I'm in my 90s, knock on wood. I want to be a polymath. I have an incredible mentor that I've known since I was 19. He'll be 80 this year. And we text every day. He is a true polymath. Something happens in the world, something breaks. He knows something about it, maybe this deep, maybe really deep. And I just find that so admirable. And it inspires me to want to learn about new things. So almost all of those moves were out of curiosity. How does this work? Like, how can building software for a supply chain be so complicated? It's really complicated, but I would have never known that if I hadn't gone in and really started to learn that. Now, I learned quickly that I don't mix with certain types of CEOs. We all have chemistry, good or bad, with different people. But then sometimes it was product-based. Evernote, love the product. Like AOL was my first big thing. And I was like tech support for my family for almost a decade on AOL. When you work for a company that's doing something so important in the world and you can connect with the product, it's really exciting. And so when Evernote came calling, it was like, hell yeah, I want to work there. I love the product. I really enjoyed the CEO. We were doing a rebuild. There was really juicy work to be done, big international population. So it's usually about the problem and my interest level in the industry. And sometimes that means I'm interested because I know nothing about it. Kind of like coming to venture, like, I don't know how venture works on the inside. This should be fun just to, fill in one more category in that polymath goal.
I love it. That's amazing. And I think helpful to understand like the overarching North Star is polymath. And so anything that fills in one of those pieces along the way is sort of a welcome piece of that journey as well.
Yeah, it's like a big honeycomb.
So many good tips and learning opportunities for our audience. Again, with the idea in mind that we're supporting our audience, generally mid-career HR people. Michelle, I'd love to ask you kind of a quick fire set of questions. We call this the accelerator round. It's got to be branded, of course.
Of course.
So, briefly, for the benefit of other HR folks, where do you learn from and what sources could you recommend to the audience?
I am a regular listener of podcasts and reader. I have so many books at home that I love. I wish I were at home right now because I could just grab them and tell you what they're all called because my memory sucks. There is one that's going to come to me, and if I don't remember it by the time I finish this conversation, I'll make sure you have it. It's about the rugby team in South Africa. I can see the front of the book. Steve Kerr is the author, Kerr. It's an amazing book about building strong cultures. I've read that book so many times at different eras. It's one of the few books I have on paper that is like rattered and tattered and scribbled on and tabbed, and I just love it. I'll pick it up at least once every year or two because I'll learn something new from it based on new context. The other thing is like putting myself around people who are willing to challenge me. Just, I appreciate you said I have like a strong personality. I know that about me. Most people that get to know me realize that I'm just an actual giant goofball on the inside. And I have a resting serious face. We're going to rebrand this, people, because we should just do that. Not human ball. It's a single word, 2 syllables. That's how I remember things. But anyway, be around people that will challenge you and invite the challenge. I will say my first head of people role was in a public company. And I reported into a CFO/CEO. He was sitting in both seats. He was a board member who would come in to sit in those seats. So talk about intimidating, like getting pushed into the big seat for the first time. I was like 32 years old. and then reporting into someone who used to be on the board, but now is the CFO and CEO, who I didn't really interact with. I remember this so clearly as an example. We had an annual bonus. It was supposed to be a cash bonus, and the company was running such slim margins that if we were profitable, which was one of the key KPIs to pay the bonus, if we paid the bonus, we were not profitable anymore. That's how tight it was. Public company, 1,000 people, right? And so I said to him, like, I need to motivate these people, but the bonus is like hurting us while it should be helping us. And he said, why are you stuck in this construct? Go think about it differently. You have way more tools than just cash. And so sort of like, what the heck does that mean? Well, I went away and said, all right, well, I can't change targets because people get pissed off about that. But what if we granted RSUs in place of a cash bonus at the start of the review period? Here's your targets, $10,000. We have you $10,000 worth of RSUs. They will performance-based, only vest if we hit our targets at the end of that 6 months. And if it's worth more, it overachieves quite naturally. So we did half RSUs, half cash. Totally worked. This was in like 2008. So RSUs it was much earlier, again, public company. And so you had to be really crisp on the performance metrics. So I learned a lot about using my creativity and then doing that in a highly constrained space by one person who just said, knock it off and think about it differently. So find some of those people that are willing to work against your strong personality, who might be like, yeah, I got this figured out, when you're thinking, I'm not sure how I have this figured out, and get them to push on you and remove some constraints that you don't know you're putting in yourself. You won't find everything in a book, but like humans that you can work with can push you.
Find a sounding board. Find your personal board of directors.
Yeah. And get them to be outside of HR, at least half of them, because they don't, like HR people, we have a tendency to think like, what's the impact to the employees? That tends to be our first line of questioning. And that is not anyone else's first line of questioning. So it shades or colors the whatever we're thinking about. And so somebody else is going to come at it with what's the impact to our customer, or what's the impact to the bottom line, or fill in the blank, whatever their specialty is. Pick somebody in a different industry. They'll ask questions in a different way that you might think, I have no idea what the answer is. Perfect. That's the right question. Go find it.
Try to get a sense of the whole picture. And if you have the same puzzle piece 8 times, you'd never complete the puzzle.
That's right. And just get other perspectives, not just besides your own, and not just people who would sit in your seat. People that would never sit in your seat are very, very helpful.
Love it. All right. One sentence of advice. Can you share, again, for a mid-career HR professional, about how to accelerate a successful HR career today?
Just take more work. Nobody wants to hear that, but just take more work. Go do something that needs to get done on the team that nobody wants to do, and do it differently.
And there's an action verb there. Take it.
Take it. Yeah.
Don't ask for it. Don't wait for it to be handed to you. Identify it and go make it happen.
Yeah. I think people are afraid to do that. And I think it holds them back.
Love it. We talked with Melanie Naranjo, who...
I love her.
Yeah, we do too. Who talks about agency, like taking agency. So same idea, like go make it happen. Go figure out where the need is. Go take more work. Michelle, how can our listeners connect with you?
LinkedIn is the best way. And then if you want to hear more about what it's like inside of Venture or any of our portfolio companies, super easy. Just michelle@playground.vc. Drop me a note. And then, as I always tell people, be good to yourself, else you're no good for anyone else. So take care of yourselves.
I love that. On that amazing note, be good to yourselves. Thank you so much, Michelle, for joining us today and for sharing your wisdom and for continuing to be a friend all these years. Just so wonderful to have time with you.
Thanks, Jess. Great to spend time with both of you.
Thanks for joining us on today's episode of People Leader Accelerator Podcast, where we talk with business and HR leaders about what makes great leadership and great work. We hope you walked away with at least one game-changing insight for you and your team. You can find show notes and free bonus resources at peopleleaderaccelerator.com/podcast. If today's conversation sparked something for you, hit subscribe, leave a quick review, and share this episode with that one colleague who really needs to hear it. You know who I'm talking about. And if you're currently navigating the tricky waters of hiring top talent, developing leaders who actually lead, or building a culture that fuels growth, let's talk. You can find us at peopleleaderaccelerator.com. We're here to help you and your team not just survive, but truly thrive. I'm Jess Yuen, and on behalf of my co-host, Andrew Bartlow, thanks for investing your valuable time with us. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode. Until next time, keep learning and keep leading.